All right. Good night. Good evening, everyone. Good night. Good evening, everyone. It is the 6 o'clock. Call the meeting to order for our February 5th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. My name is Stephanie Slish. I'm chair of the Planning Board. To my right, I have Jimmy Tarr, alternate chair. To my left, I have Lee Bell. And then I have Doug Finn joining us virtually. Doug, can you state your presence for the record?
Yes, this is Doug Finn joining you from West Hampton.
Thank you so much. And then I have our assistant town planner, Isabella Yeager here, and then our town administrator, Andrew Levine. As always, at the top of every meeting, we have public forum. This is the opportunity for folks who would like to speak to something that is not on our agenda tonight. So if there's something that you'd like to bring forth and talk to the planning board about, again, that's not on the agenda, now is the time. And I'll give folks a minute for that. For John, our other planning board member who's just arrived, in case there's anyone who would like to speak for public forum. If not, it appears that everyone here is a part of the public forum, is a part of the agenda tonight. And so we'll move to close public forum and move on to our public hearing. So when it comes to public hearing procedures, we end up what I do is I'm going to read the notice of the public hearing, and then we hear comments from supporters of the, in this case, bylaw. Then we hear from opponents of the bylaw. And then the board will then, deliberate and discuss and close the public hearing and deliberate. With that, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, February 5th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. in Town Hall to consider an amendment to section 3.4.4 accessory dwelling units of the town zoning bylaws. Proposed amendments to the zoning bylaws to be found on file at the Town Hall Clerk's office and available for public inspection during Town Clerk's regular business hours. All right. With that, I would like to give just a little history of how we got here, and then we can open up for comments. So last town meeting, we voted to update our accessory dwelling unit bylaw. In doing so, we allowed, when we previously would only allow for attached units, we kept basically the same bylaw and allowed for detached units. And then, so that was last May. And then over the summer, the governor's office passed a law that would allow accessory dwelling units by right across the Commonwealth. That went into effect earlier this week. And in doing so, it then made our accessory dwelling unit bylaw not compatible with the state's new law. So this is really just getting it up to speed with what the state is allowing us, how we can tweak it and make it our own. But in essence, it's making accessory dwelling units of 900 square feet allowed by right to anyone, basically, essentially any parcel, when before previously we had restricted it to certain size lots and things like that. So we've been working on updating this, but it's also it's been a bit of a challenge, only that, it's a new law. And so hopefully we are doing what we can to bring it into compliance. And hopefully there won't be any litigation from other communities or towns or anything like that then will make us have to update this again next year. So keeping all of that in mind, I will now entertain anyone who would like to speak here in favor or of the project of this bylaw. Speak now.
Be quiet.
All right. And would anyone like to speak in opposition to this? If there anyone that's here that would like to make comments on it, you kind of have to pick a side. So either you're here to speak for it or against it. And if not, then we can speak as a board. It's been a while since we've had a public hearing, actually. So I'm looking at my notes.
Nobody on the phone?
Are you here to speak to our, okay, great. All right. All right, if no one's here to speak to the accessory dwelling unit bylaw update, should I close the public hearing if we're then deliberating then internally? Yeah? Okay. Do I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Is that what we're supposed to do? Then I'll move.
Mhm.
Second. I'll move to close the public hearing for deliberation.
Okay.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. And so now it's time for the board to deliberate on what is proposed. The part that's in our packets is the most recent, what was submitted to the town clerk's office with a couple of recommended revisions from the town council, but very light edits, as you can see. So if we were to choose to vote on this tonight, I would say we should be choosing to incorporate his edits to,
Voting with the James.
yes.
So
And
that
then,
would be the strike in the three parking.
correct. And other, yeah, that's like the main substantial change out of all of his edits.
Transit station, yeah, that's it.
I do have one question though, that Doug, because Doug did the heavy lifting here with this, and I really appreciate him doing that. One of the questions I had is so the way that this is spelled out is that by right, you're allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit as long as it is the ADU is placed further from the way in which the lot has the frontage. The height of the ADU is not exceeding the height of the principal dwelling, and has to hit setback requirements. I'm just kind of doing a top line thing for folks here. There should be at least one parking spot for an ADU. All exterior lighting should be shielded. On-site storage and waste management and recycling should occur interior of the dwelling or an attached garage or screened appropriately. There should be a reflective street address. To the extent feasible, any new entrances should be located on the rear or side building, and that an ADU should not be used as a short-term rental or a timeshare property or a bed and breakfast. The concept of this is to increase affordable housing options in town, not to be hold on one second. Okay. And then the other thing that we mention here is that there's an option. If it does not meet those requirements, it's then sent to a site plan review as an option. And the building inspector can refer it to the planning board for a site plan review. And so the reasons it would be sent for a site plan review is if the lot is served by municipal wastewater service or has sufficient existing septic capacity, if the lot is sufficient to provide parking, access, egress, if the proposed ADU would not reasonably or significantly detract from the character of the immediate neighborhood, or the proposed ADU is consistent with the intent and purposes of the zoning bylaw. So that's just like the how that would work. But the question I have is, so you're allowed to have a second ADU on a residential lot also according to state law. But we can condition that a little bit more. And so that's one of the questions that I had, Doug, because one of them says that every structure on the lot has to be 66 feet from any other structure on the lot. And I'm curious as to where did that number come from? And if it has to do with public safety, there's a bullet that says there will be adequate access to all structures by fire and other emergency vehicles, and the fire chief and the designee certifies that. Are those related or separate? I'm just curious as to how we ended up with 66
I
feet.
know that the bullet point requirement to have a certain minimum distance between the ADU and any other structure on the lot, the underlying intent is to not create too much density on any given lot, so that an ADU can't be placed next to another ADU next to the dwelling. And I'm talking about within 10 or 15 feet. Even if the fire department approves 10 or 15 feet, the intention is to, and that's also the intention behind a minimum lot area of 135,000 square feet,
Mhm.
or roughly 3 acres, is to not create a situation where someone with only an acre of land has 3 separate dwelling units on it, all fighting for, square footage. 2 comments that I can take away. First of all, the 66 feet, I could not tell you where that was sourced from. So that number is subject to debate. The other thing I did want to note is that the guidance that just came out this week from the state actually signifies that my takeaway is that towns can actually choose to not allow a second ADU on a lot. Their guidance says that if a town chooses to consider a second ADU on the lot, that second ADU must be considered through the special permit process.
Mm.
We had it backwards. We had it the other way. We had the assumption that we had to allow a second ADU by special permit. We can choose to not allow a second ADU at all. So I'm throwing that out there.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
You, the previous markup on that same page, right above second ADU, you use the term proposed protected use ADU. What are we
Mhm.
getting at with protected use ADU?
Protected use ADU is defined by the state law. A protected ADU, a protected use ADU is an ADU that meets the state's definition of an ADU.
All ADUs under the law.
By right.
Okay,
and
okay, that's the
is
first time I saw that term.
First protected ADU on the lot, yes.
So yeah, the first one,
First one, no, can do. Not much we can
we
do.
can do site plan review, basically.
Second, on E, we need, the first sentence after the first pair. A second ADU on the lot shall only be approved if it's going to be may be approved, right? Second one may. Because we have more
Well, that,
ability to change that, right?
well, I mean, to Doug's question is, do we, because right now we're just gonna say, because our interpretation or what town council's interpretation at the time before this
Right,
new
okay.
guidance said that we should allow, so that special permits should be the way for, that second units will be allowed by special permit. We can't not
Right.
allow them,
now
but
with
now maybe
New
there's,
info.
right. This is what I mean about like the law's changing and
They're
it could,
interpreting it now, yeah.
and it can be interpreted different ways. Just like with cannabis laws, when we legalized that, there was like, everyone's trying to
Well, I
figure
don't
it
want
out.
to necessarily speak for the entire board, but I think, given our past discussions, we've kind of been on a track where 2 units is something that should be allowable given the space.
If they have the space.
So I don't think there's any reason to divert from the course that we're on because we had the option, unless someone has an idea about that.
Well, it's saying it shall only be approved if it meets these specifications. It sounds like you can get through the gate with these specifications, wherein recent guidance is telling us we have the ability to deny this during the special plan review. So that sentence is wrong. That's all. That's,
We
the
just have to
only thing.
modify so we
I don't think
Would
it's,
you consider replacing the words shall only with the word may?
yeah, that's exactly what I
There you
mean.
go.
That's exactly it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's inaccurate about it.
I would completely support that change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that still allows the board the discretion to deny.
It reflects the recent guidance you got.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Mhm.
That's my only question. All these track changes are
Yeah.
perfectly.
If this language is fixed and we can only amend, then I'm happy to propose that as an amendment on town meeting floor. But I'm guessing that with our town administrator right there, he could probably answer the question, can we make that change right now?
You can make that change now.
We have 5 or 6, 7 track changes we're incorporating. We're voting on
Right.
those changes, so we want to add one more.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
So-
this board would have to be able to make changes to it. It's fine.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, the only other thing that I said is just 66 feet seems like kind of
We
arbitrary.
don't know. Yeah,
and,
we
like,
don't know where it
I
came
don't-
from.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm like, why is this here? Because like, there's another bullet point that gets to that point of there will be adequate opportunities for privacy between the separate dwellings. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to put a random number there, or even if it's not random, and then we get a circumstance in front of us, and we're like, sorry, we can't allow it just because you have an odd lot size because
63
it's
feet.
66 feet that we determined from some.
So I would
Arbitrary.
again have no problem with striking that line, because I think you're correct. I think it's covered by some of the other bullet point criteria here. The board has the option to say that there isn't enough opportunity for privacy between the separate dwellings,
The top
even if the
floor.
fire department says that there's plenty of space between for public safety purposes. That's fine. So striking that bullet point would be fine with me.
So what does everyone else think about that?
First one, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it was
The first
assumed
one
that
on
there
page
was,
4.
Okay.
there was something to it that kept us in line. but still.
Right, if there was some reason to have it, right? But it seems. All right, with that, I feel like, we're doing what we can do. The other thing that I did get reached out from a member of the public who watched our meeting last time, because we brought up the point about site plan review, like what happens if someone wants to put a very out of character looking ADU in our historic Main Street, for example. It would be completely within their right to do so. And we could condition it and do that through the site plan review process, but the question was, what if it was anything that was in a historical district would automatically have to go to site plan review? Was a question that got brought up to me.
That would make sense.
Does Hatfield have an established historic district?
Yes, we have multiple historic districts. They do not have any real teeth behind them when it comes to zoning, unless we
Okay.
decide to put something like this in that.
So the answer would be that the planning board does not have discretion over building design when it comes to private residences. A historic district commission and a duly established historic district, they would have authority to review building design and even to deny approval based on the design of the building. So I'm happy to say that's actually not in our wheelhouse.
And there's nothing that we can put into the bylaws. It would be a separate process. I feel like how does that happen then?
Would I get triggered by building inspection?
Because the way it says now is the proposed ADU will not reasonably or significantly detract from the character of the immediate neighborhood. So that would be a reason for the building inspector to be like, you know what, this is kind of on the fence for me, or like this looks like it might not meet the character of the neighborhood, and he could send it to site plan review that way.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, we can't condition how someone decides to build something, but we could put screening in front of it or ask them to be less visible from wherever.
From the road.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about any one of the, amazing historic homes on the main street. And I'm thinking about if somebody wanted to put a god-awful stainless steel curved ADU in their front yard.
Shipping container ADU, yeah.
Section C, Part D3, Part 1 would be triggered. The ADU is closer to the public way than the principal dwelling. That would then kick that proposal to site plan review. And as part of the site plan review, the planning board could give notice to their neighbors and encourage those neighbors to come. And then the neighbors could speak in opposition to having this big giant stainless steel monster in the front yard. The planning board could not use that as its sole reason to deny.
Right.
But at least it would give that individual enough feedback to maybe reconsider the decision.
But if the stainless steel shipping container ADU was put behind the historic home, they would
Somewhere in
have,
the backyard, far enough away from the public view that it wasn't readily apparent, I don't think we'd have any grounds to deny it. And
I'm not
I-
saying we would
I-
have grounds to deny it because
Yeah,
it's a site
okay.
plan review anyway,
Yeah.
but it would then kick it to us to notify neighbors. And I think that was the impetus, the reasoning why the resident reached out to me and was like hoping that we could have more site plan review, more light, so to speak, shine more daylight on anything that would be an ADU that could be built in a historic district.
And if somebody proposed a small ADU that was entirely keeping in character and that otherwise met the standards in section C of this proposed bylaw, I don't think we'd have any cause to conduct a site plan review. And I personally think I wouldn't want to do that. If the neighbor is concerned about density, I don't mean to be mean, but
I don't know if it would be a concern about density, but could be a concern about character. Which,
sure.
Right. Does anyone else have thoughts on that debate?
Yeah,
Um,
it's tricky.
Seems like a fine line if we're not supposed to make it harder for them to construct these
Right.
things. It's like, does that pass into the realm of like you have to make it look historic and then the price goes up and then it's more difficult? I don't know. Is that within our, is that one of the things we're not supposed to do?
So there is some new language, and Doug, I'm seeing this for kind of the first time, so you can let me know if I'm reading this wrong. But this does say in the state's standards that a municipality may establish design standards and dimensional standards for protected use ADUs located in a historic district that are more restrictive or different from what is required for a single-family residential dwelling in the single-family residential zoning district. Provided, however, that such standards are not so restrictive, excessive, burdensome, or arbitrary that it prohibits, renders infeasible, or unreasonably increases the costs for the use of construction for protected use ADU. So it's giving you a little bit of leeway for historic, as long as it's not too much leeway, seems to be what the state's saying. So if there's an interest in some kind of design standards or something else, there may be some opportunities to work with that.
And would design standards be something that we would do separate, wouldn't need a town meeting process to do, like our design guidelines didn't need to do that?
We could establish design standards for the historic districts. I would think that that would then be a bullet point under the ADU standards, section C of this bylaw.
Would it have to be as a part of the bylaw? I guess that's a question for
Right.
council.
We would have to make reference to them. So what happened previously, Andrew, is our zoning bylaws referenced Hatfield design guidelines
Right.
multiple times, but we never ever passed them or approved them.
Yeah.
And so then it was like a decade later, we got around to approving them. But it
They
was
are
advised
guidelines.
they didn't have to go to town meeting for that. But the references to the guidelines need to be put in now.
Yep.
Because it's within our bylaw and we need to be a part of that, if that makes sense. It's kind of doing it a
You're
little
saying
bit
they should get added now, even if the guidelines aren't ready yet? Yes.
A reference to the
a reference
guidelines,
to the guidelines.
if that's something that this board wants to do.
I mean, in line with historic commission, I feel like it would be something to do potentially.
So wordsmithing on the fly,
Yep.
section C, part D.
Yep.
I would suggest we could add an item number 4. And literally wordsmithing on the fly, section 4, the ADU, I'm sorry, in any established historic district, the ADU shall comply with
Potential restrictions apply.
design standards as approved by the planning board, the historic district commission, or the historic commission.
Or you could just say with ADU design guidelines or historic design, whatever the phrasing that you mentioned, Andrew.
Design standards approved by the planning board, I would think.
Yeah, that's what he just said.
What if historic has anything on this?
Let me back up, actually. I don't think the historic district should be there. I don't think the planning board would approve any design standards that would run afoul of what the historic district commission
That's
would agree
what I'm
with.
thinking.
Yeah. We would invite them to,
We can't rely on them to provide standards that are so elusive that nobody can meet them.
we would invite them for their input, I think is how we would phrase that.
And we would rely on them if
Yeah.
we're looking for specificity, I would hope, but so then that simply adds up to, in any established historic district, the ADU shall comply with design standards as approved by the planning board, period and paragraph.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as everyone else feels like that's a worthy.
No, it's an elegant,
I like that.
elegant solution.
Doug, I think you're muted. Oh, your headphones are on.
I think he's supposed to be muted.
Okay.
And I
Sorry.
think, no, that's fine. And I, just to harken back to our comprehensive plan that we passed, I think it's a good, right now, like, we don't really have anything that really, in our zoning bylaws that really talks to our historic district and our historic homes. And I think the recommendations was to try to bring more of that integration into just not just our bylaws, but into other facets of the comprehensive plan. So I think this is a good like first little step at trying to do so. So
Agreed.
all right. Any other comments or thoughts on this? Otherwise,
Thank you, Doug.
yeah, thank you very much, Doug. It looks
Lot
like
of work.
we're going to be taking the town council's very minor
Changes.
language changes with the one that says the one language change that's kind of not minor is we said there should be at least 3 off-street parking spaces for the principal dwelling unit and the ADU. Due to state law, we can require 1 parking spot per ADU. So that's just more of a note. And then the other piece is moving the language around. A second ADU on a lot may be approved if the special permit granting authority determines that on section E, and then adding that 4th bullet of criteria on section C, part D, part 4, mentioning the historic district ADUs should comply with design standards approved by the planning board. Any other comments on that? Otherwise, I just wanted to recap all of that. Because if we're good, then I could get a motion for all of those things.
Move to approve with amendments we just spoke about.
Second.
Seconded.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Doug votes aye.
Great, thank you, Doug. And we are approving the updated accessory dwelling unit bylaw that will then go to town meeting in May. So hope to see you all there.
Hooray.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item here, we have an A&R application from Mr. Joe Sajkowski at 55 Depot Road, parcel ID number 205-29.2-0. This is an A&R application that came into us last month. And it looks, can we have the applicant come and stand in front of the microphone or sit in front of the microphone, introduce themselves, and just explain what you'd like to do with the lot?
I'm Joe Sajkowski, a farmer from Hadley. We'd like to divide this up into 2 lots. It complies with all the rules and regulations. Hopefully it's by right. Now you know everything I do.
Thank you.
This is the same plot that was going to be used by the Herberts.
Yes.
Yep,
Your
and
friend Michael has moved out of state.
And
So yeah, per our bylaws, you need 200 feet of frontage, and the lot size is definitely adequate. Over around 2 acres for one lot and 2.2 acres for the other lot. One of them has a barn on it. And then as long as the other frontage for the one that has the dwelling on it has 200 total, and it looks like between the Depot Road and the Cronin Hill Road, that it does. Yeah, it looks like a pretty straightforward A&R, and if anyone has any other comments or questions on this parcel from the board? Otherwise,
Doug has no comments, and I'd move to endorse the plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control bylaw.
Second that.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So yeah, we will sign this, and either if you want to hang out for the rest of the meeting, we can give this to you at the end of the meeting, or you can come into the town hall tomorrow and pick up everything.
With the snow tomorrow,
Oh, fair.
Right.
unless you're pulling an all-nighter.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm here representing their realtor.
Yep.
She's actually waiting for that document because she has to get it sent off. So I was wondering, is it possible to get your signatures before you move on? Because I got to bring it to her.
I'm willing.
Sure, yeah.
And that
Sorry.
thing.
I just wanna make sure we have-
You got the Sharpie?
We just need a Sharpie to
Got
sign.
I have a thin
Look
shirt.
at
perfect.
this.
We got it.
Sweet, sweet. There you go.
Sorry, I don't mean to delay your meeting.
No.
That's
You're fine.
okay.
It's gonna
Efficiency.
slow up the process if I can't get it to her quicker.
Yeah,
I know
let's-
it's nighttime, but
Also, Doug voted, and he's not here to sign this, so what do we do?
As long as you have 4 signatures on the plan.
Okay,
you're fine.
Should be
Great.
fine.
Quorum.
Let me know if you
All
need a
three?
bigger Sharpie.
We gotta sign the
That
same
doesn't
order,
work.
right?
Same order.
Same order both times.
All right, I'll start at the,
We need to sign
just the vellum.
all of these too.
thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yep.
No, that one.
And Doug, I know we
All
only
these
have
are
you
signed.
for the next
All of
Yep, so
20
just the
minutes or
same line
so.
every time.
Regrettably, yes.
So if there's anything you want on the agenda you would like to speak to, let me know. We would do that next. But I don't, yeah.
Four and you're done. Good man. That's Steve.
You're way better at that than me.
That's what I do this all freaking day, dude. I get shit signed
I
at my
know.
desk on accounts.
And that's when we'll mess up. No, we won't. Oh, actually,
So I even have like the
Jinx
waxy
us.
grease at my desk. Dip it.
so Carrie, I have this here that I think stays with the town. This one.
I'm sure we need.
I don't know that she needs those. I think there was one document that you were supposed.
We are supposed to
sign
have some-
last week and only have to sign something that was going.
Do you want to take everything and then
Safer for me to take.
and then come back with
Yeah, I
what
can bring
is
back
not
whatever needs to
needed?
be for the town. Absolutely.
Yep.
Do you want me to make a copy of anything?
What'd you say?
Do you want me to make a copy of anything?
Yeah, if you can make a copy of this that I just had endorsed. I'm pretty sure this just stays with the town, but if
Something has to go to the registry. I know that much.
Yeah,
So
it's
I don't know if it's that document.
Right.
There.
Mylar sheet.
Yeah.
in the
The
Mylar.
Mylar sheet has to go to the registry.
Town should keep the application and at least 2 paper copies.
Yep.
Oh. I can't talk to it.
All right. Your turn, Jimmy. Sign and date all. I don't think 1, 2,
Okey-dokey.
All right.
There's 4 of these.
Thank you so much. Sorry about holding you guys.
That's okay.
No, we understand you guys are working with the clock too, so. Give them the copy of one, because that one's right.
Perfect.
Also, where did my,
Oops, sorry.
this is mine.
Yep.
Bye, thank
so
you.
much.
Yep. Was that mine? This is my pencil. All my stuff ended up, so
Just got
we just
blown out.
got. All right.
Did I lose my Sharpie?
Nope, it's right here. Geez, you brought the
I'm-
Tums, you
I'm
brought the
propless.
Sharpie.
I'm propless.
He brought
over here.
everything that everyone's needs tonight. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Moving along, we have approval of minutes, but I also wanted, like I said, we only have Doug's time for about 15, 20 more minutes. Is there anything on the agenda, Doug, that you would like to speak to? We can do minutes later.
No, I'm fine right now. Thank
Okay.
you.
Right now, next item on the agenda, we have approval of our minutes from our January 8th meeting. I did read these and they looked good to me. I don't know if everyone else had a chance to read them.
It looked okay to me.
Anyone would like to make a motion then?
Motion, we accept the minutes as listed for January 8th meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the January 8th.
Doug votes aye.
All right, thank you, Doug. Minutes from the January 8th meeting are approved as is. Next item on the agenda, the DLTA grant application. This is something I put on the agenda hoping that we would have some sort of update on. Do we have an update on this?
No.
Anything. So we applied. So based on our last meeting, we applied and got everything in on time, received yes for application. They said that they would like to let the municipalities know, I think it was like the 23rd or the 24th of January, and we have not heard anything. So I was hoping to say, woohoo, we can move ahead with what we applied for, but we have not heard anything yet. So yeah, maybe we could reach out. I was also trying to be respectful of like knowing that, sometimes deadlines go past, but
Been a little while. We can ask.
yeah, it's now almost 2 weeks later. So I feel like we could reach out and ask. Okay. Bella, you'll do that then?
I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm sure they won't mind.
Yeah, and I've spoken with other PVCP members, but like not the one who got the applications. I don't know how big of a place it is
Yeah.
to be like, hey, so
Yeah.
do you know?
Subtly.
Yeah, but any other updates from you, Bella?
I only have someone else is interested in 121 West Street. It's happening again.
Which one is that again?
It's the one. It has a 1 acre little house parcel,
right.
and then there's a big parcel attached to it. The front half is light industrial, the back half is rural residential. The back half is really rocky, the front half is flat. And it's very tricky to figure out what to do with it. We keep getting people who want to change the zoning to residential for the front. And then, anyway, someone wants to do a solar field. Honestly, this seems like the best proposal yet, except it has a high water table. And so depending on what a solar field requires in terms of actually, installing these panels in the ground, I don't know. I gave him a call.
We had someone reach out to do that exact same thing
And it didn't.
a year and a half ago, but it was
Yeah.
some big giant corporation. So I don't know if they just didn't think the yield would be
Worth it or
worth
something.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he really could only use the front portion, not only because of the zoning, but the back is really rocky and hilly. So,
And then once you get up in there, there's vernal pools and stuff all up
Exactly.
in there. So
Yeah. I'm assuming he's looked at the zoning and has seen that only the front half. I mean, the front half is like 6 acres, so he could. That's
with a high water table.
right. And Lori mentioned to him that it has a high water table, and he said that was fine. But my intention was to talk to him on the phone and ask him, why he thinks that, and should he get like a engineer out there to take a look at it and see what they think. It would qualify for the large ground mount solar system thing that we have in the table of uses, which is power for resale over 500 kilowatts and 2 or more acres. He also is talking about maybe renovating that house or tearing it down and building another one. I feel like it could be allowed as an accessory use. The only thing is it's not on the same parcel, which it would have to be. You could just do a lot line change, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of the only thing that has come up. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's good for today. I do want to start a planning board calendar, but we should talk about so that we can sort of see what deadlines are coming up for grants and just our general plan for the rest of the year. But I think we'll know more too when we have the DLTA feedback, and we'll know like what our schedule is when we need to start getting things done for that.
Great.
Have we heard anything about the Steeple property at all?
No.
Okay.
I think
That's the property at the end of, opposite the end of Chestnut Street. It's a big property. It's maybe 70 acres. It's got a barn that's had some work done on it recently. And then Frank Steeple died.
I think it was the reason why we got the MassWorks grant to extend the water, and
Right.
the sewer line up that way.
Right.
All right. The last item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan Hatfield 2040 implementation committee. Andrew, do you want to take this?
Sure, I'll address this real quick. So, as you all know, the comprehensive plan was approved earlier last year at this point. And the select board voted last week to create a committee that would comprise of 9 members that would be charged with the implementation of this plan. And it's a lot of coordination. It's working with the different boards and commissions and town departments that have different responsibilities that are given to them through the comprehensive plan. And working to make sure that the different deadlines and action items are being met. They would be responsible for reporting on progress and convening other meetings with the different groups, and then meeting as a body themselves to track progress against the action plan itself. So there'll be 9 members, and the planning board does have room for a representative. So this board can choose who they would like to represent them. The select board will then appoint that person to join the committee.
Yeah, and I was the member that was part of the comprehensive plan committee, the planning board representation. Happy if someone else wants to step into that role, but also, I'm also happy to continue that as well. But I also want to give the space for folks to get involved in something maybe that interests them, and to chance to work with other boards and committee members, which I think is a big plus. Getting more, less silos, getting more on the same page.
Are you looking for a volunteer? Are you looking for someone to take over?
She's getting
or take a
crickets
spot,
here.
or-
I think it also has comes around the same question of whether I will remain chair come May or after May's election or June, whenever we decide to reshuffle that there. Because
I think
I'm
I smell
having,
the opportunity for a horse trade here.
yes, because I'm also with child. And
get busy. Yeah.
will be not at this meeting next month because I will be having a newborn. So
Okay. Food for thought, or are we deciding this
when
right now?
what is the timeline for picking? Andrew.
So I think, if you can do it at this meeting, I think that's great. Otherwise, it's probably not a huge problem if you do it at your next meeting, because the select board will be taking applicants for 2 at-large positions. We'll need to probably give a little bit of time for those to come in and then approve them. So it
And then
probably all will
hopefully
end up happening around the same time. But if you want to pick someone tonight, then we'll put it on the agenda for them to approve that and start moving the left.
And then also thinking about DLTA funding, part of that request is to help kick off the implementation committee. And by the time that comes in and all of that, it probably will be in the next couple of months. Okay. Yes, Doug?
Well, if you're looking for someone to volunteer, my wife might hate me for it, but I'd be willing to throw my hat in the ring.
Okay.
Great.
I mean, yeah, I'm willing to be a part of it too. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't want your wife to be upset with us.
Oh. 22 years, I think she's used to me by now.
Yeah, we don't have to vote on it tonight, or we can. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Like I said,
Why don't you think about how you feel about it and we can vote on it next time?
although next time I will not be here.
Okay.
And you
You
might
can
get
tell us.
voted to do it without.
You might get appointed.
Yeah, exactly.
She won't even be on a Zoom call next month.
I mean, I was told I didn't have the votes not to be chair the last couple of years. So, hopefully, yeah. Anyway, with that, any other discussion on this? Otherwise, we can just table this and talk about it next meeting. Give more thought to it, because the meetings will probably be what, like once a month
That's the plan. Yep.
until for how long? Technically, the implementation committee should be going on forever,
20
but I don't
years.
think that is going to be the case.
I think we'll start with a year and see where we go from there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Without any other comments, I will say that the application that came in, or the informal conversation we had last month about the pinball and pizza plates, they said they'll probably be ready for our next meeting. They weren't ready for this meeting, so I
Great.
think that'll be March.
Looks like a really fun project.
Yes.
Exciting.
So with that, I think that's what's planned for next meeting. And Jimmy, you're on deck
Yep.
to chair it. So, and that would just be probably site plan review, right? Yeah. All right. Anything else? All right.
We have some guest visitors, and do you have something you came for, or?
The accessory dwelling.
Uh-huh.
Wanted to learn more about that.
Nice. We're happy to answer questions too after the meeting as well.
Yeah.
Anything else? Otherwise,
Motion to adjourn.
Doug says he's right here. He can answer any questions for you.
And now that I know he's on the planning board.
Yeah, he's going like this to you. Yes, and he's the one who helped craft this bylaw. So yes, he would be the best probably.
Yeah,
one
you
on this
could ask
board.
us. We're going to defer to him.
I'll talk to you later. I'll call you
Good night,
later
Doug.
tomorrow or something like that.
Oh, he said I'll call you. Yep. All right.
I'll call her.
Can we get our next meeting then is Wednesday, March 5th. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
All right. The meeting
Good night,
is
everybody.
adjourned at
Thank you.
6:48.
Thanks, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.